on the example. The summarized balance sheet or statement of financial position of Yudus India Berhad is as follows. So the net fixed asset or net current asset is 950,000, current asset 500,000, and on the liabilities is given our equity 1 million, long-term debt 200,000, and our current liabilities 250,000. So first of all, we have to categorize the between the permanent sources, temporary sources, permanent asset, and temporary asset. So the question asks us to discuss the capital management policy of Yudus India Berhad. Either it can be categorized as a hedging, conservative, or aggressive. So our permanent asset is 950,000. So temporary asset 500,000. So this one is our permanent sources. Combination of 1 million and 200,000 become 1.2 million. And our 250,000 here is our temporary sources. So basically here we have 1.2 million to finance our 950,000. So we get the extra. So it shows that we have more permanent sources to finance all our permanent asset and part of our temporary asset. So this one we can consider this is an conservative. Why conservative? Because we have more permanent sources, 1.2 million, to cover our permanent asset, only 950,000. So we got the other extra. The extra also we can cover part of our current asset. Okay, have a look on the example of question 2. The following is the statement of financial position. Extract of Black Sea Berhad is at 31st December 2019. And it is given the non-current asset 600,000, inventories, account receivable, bank. So these three things is considered as the temporary asset. Yeah, this one is considered as permanent asset for the non-current asset. Okay, so under equity and liability is given ordinary shares 550,000, preference shares 200,000. So this one we consider as a permanent sources. And also is given the account payable and accrued expenses. So account payable is temporary sources and accrued expenses is the spontaneous. So this one is considered as the temporary sources. The financial manager identified that 40% of the current assets were permanent. So it shows that here 40% of the current asset. So 40% of the current asset are permanent. So permanent goes to here. So we have to calculate 40% of our current asset. So here permanent current asset is 40% times from 900,000. So 900,000 is actually 200,000 plus 250,000 and plus 450,000. So 40% from the 900,000, which is 360,000, is actually permanent current asset. And the 60% will be falls under temporary current asset. So we divide into 2 of the 900,000. Okay, so we have two options over here to identify whether this is using hedging, conservative, or aggressive. Hedging is if all the permanent sources is going to finance all of the permanent asset. So this is hedging. Okay, so permanent sources is equal to permanent asset. Alright, so this is hedging. What about conservative? Conservative is actually permanent sources is more than permanent asset. What about aggressive? Aggressive is actually temporary sources is bigger than the temporary asset. So if we look in this situation, so we have two options. So which one we like to see? So in this situation, if we look, either this one is hedging, we cannot consider this is not hedging. Why? It's not equal. The non-current asset is 600,000. But for the permanent sources, we have 750. It's not equal. So this is not hedging. Alright, if we see over here, the second option, if we see our permanent asset 600,000 compared with the this one 600,000, if we compare with this one, which is 750,000. So our permanent sources is actually 750k, which is bigger than our permanent asset. So our permanent sources is bigger than our permanent asset. So in this category, so this is the conclusion that this is the aggressive strategy. If we would like to see another part, we also can see according to this answer. So if we can see here, temporary sources of financing is 750, okay, which is 450, this one, plus with 300,000, okay, 450,000 for account payable, we plus with 300,000, so this one is accrued expenses, okay. So the total, this one 750 is more than our current asset, which is 540. How to get the 540? So 540 is actually come from this one, okay. The current asset we divide into two portions. 40 will be permanent and the temporary 60% will be 540. So in this situation also we can see that the sources of financing, short-term financing is actually higher than our temporary asset. So it shows that this is considered as the aggressive strategy. We finish A, comment on the strategies. B, so what about the risk and return trade-off? So the risk return trade-off is an aggressive approach. So this one will lead to lower liquidity. When it's lower liquidity is a high risk. However, interest of the financing is lower. So this one will result higher return.